We do lots of different cultural events about Germanic culture from many of the German-speaking countries, Germany, Switzerland, Austria, and we offer German language classes and events where people can learn more about German culture, German food. My name is Casey Horn, and I'm the Director of Cultural Programming here at the Germanic-American Institute in St. Paul. We are a German language and cultural institute, and we happen to be located in a historic mansion along Summit Avenue.
Hello, I'm Aaron Rubenstein. I'm a historic preservationist and architectural historian, and I've worked most of my life or career in St. Paul, which has a bounty of historic richness and treasures, and we're about to explore one today. So here we are on the front porch of the George and Claribel Gardner house, 301 Summit Avenue, built 1905-1906 on Summit Avenue in St. Paul. The architect was Thomas Holyoke, very skilled, talented, and a prominent architect in St. Paul. Did a number of residences and churches. He learned architecture working in the office of Cass Gilbert, and he was the chief draftsman for Gilbert in the design of the Minnesota State Capitol building. And then went off on his own around the time that this house was built. I'm not sure exactly how that timing worked with his design of this house, because the information I found says that he set up his own office in 1906, which is when this house was completed, in the Georgian revival or colonial revival style, soda limestone exterior that comes from limestone quarry here in Minnesota. And let's see, we mentioned that another house that's around the corner, perhaps you want to go take a look at it, Sydney, at 107 Farrington, I believe. That was moved from this site in 1903. It was built in the 1880s. And it's a gorgeous wood frame house, not as substantial as this masonry house. Is this a haunted house?
I think it could be.
Say more, please.
Yes. When I first started working here at the Germanic-American Institute, I was often by myself in the house during COVID. And one of these times that I was all alone in the house, I was sitting in the office and I heard, someone said hello to me. And I said hello back. And then I didn't hear anything else. So I was a bit confused. So I got up and I looked around. I looked around the whole house. And I was the only one in the house.
Are you sure?
Yeah. So the doors, they chime when they get opened. So I would have heard if someone had come in or gone out. And I didn't hear the door chimes at all. So I think someone greeted me. Probably a ghost.
Mm-hmm. And that reminds me that, so the house was completed probably around 1906, and Mr. Gardner died in 1934. And Mrs. Gardner in 1938, 4 years later. And I don't know where they died, but it's quite possible they died in this house. And then their son Truman lived here, right?
Yes.
And did he have a family?
Yes, he had a wife and two sons as well.
Okay. And so he lived here for a while. I read that it may have become a boarding house.
Yes. In between the time when the Gardner family lived here and before it was purchased as a priory for nuns, it was a boarding house for a while.
Yes, probably during World War II.
Yes.
And then it was sold in 1948 to the Sisters of St. Benedict.
Yes.
Who created the St. Paul Priory here. And they stayed until 1965 when the Wilkes Association purchased it.
So that's there were lots of nuns that lived in the house in that ballroom upstairs. 20 nuns lived in there at one time.
Wow.
All together, just on single beds with an apple crate for a nightstand. And yeah,
20
of them.
Dormitory
crammed in
living.
there. Yes. And then it was purchased by the Volksfest Association that eventually became the Germanic-American Institute.
And the nuns were, very much operated in the spiritual world.
Yes.
So this house is imbued with all kinds of spirit.
All kinds of spirit.
Yes. Here we are in the foyer, the grand entry.
The grand entryway.
You see the entry vestibule behind us with the gorgeous leaded glass, the fan light and the side lights, repeated both sides of the entry vestibule, really lovely. And here's the grand foyer with that grand staircase, an important feature of a big house if you want to impress your visitors and neighbors, right?
So, yes, so this was the main sitting room, which had apparently a lot of heavy furniture and very dark curtains and was very rarely used by the family that lived here. And then the room over here was their formal dining room, which we can explore a little bit. You can see it's attached to the kitchen, so it makes sense from a layout perspective. The dining room and check out some of just the features of this room here.
Notice the garland, the swag up here of the door. What a gorgeous fireplace. How many fireplaces are in the house?
7.
7 fireplaces, that's amazing. Do any of them work?
None of them function now, but they all used to work, of course.
That's just a beautiful fireplace around. Very elegant dining room.
Yes, again, make sure to impress your guests.
Wood paneling, I don't know what kind of wood this is. I wonder if it's mahogany. I don't know. Yeah. The big molding at the top of the wall.
In this room in particular, this is where the family of 4 that lived here originally, this is where they would sit down and eat their breakfast and lunch and dinner meals, which would be prepared for them by a cook that also lived in the house with them. And this is where they would sit down and eat dinner.
They probably had a grand wooden table and
yes,
elaborate chairs, carved chairs.
also these tiny little cabinets. They're only a couple of inches deep.
And is this what they would have used a cabinet like this for?
As far as we know, yes. Having vases, decorative items in there for storage that could then easily be brought out.
A couple of hangers, picture hangers up on that picture rail. So you don't have to put nails in the wall.
It's like a flat ledge, and then you can put hooks up there to hang your pictures from, like we've done with this map over here. Off of this sort of formal sitting room, this was the piano room where Mr. Gardner had his piano, and he would sit in this room and smoke his cigars.
And in other houses like this, if they didn't have a piano, it might be the library or the den or a sitting room. And another fireplace, fireplace number 3. Look at that
This one has some
inlay.
really cool tile inlay.
Yes. A work of art. house was not like the James J. Hill's mansion across the street and up a little ways where there would be a huge kitchen in the basement. This kitchen was originally on the first floor.
Yes. Yes.
And this huge stove. Wow. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 burners.
10 burners, 2 ovens. It's a giant stove. The GAI has served lots of meals to hundreds of people just cooking on this stove here, making them traditional German meals.
Notice the original tile wall over there and elsewhere in this kitchen. And what else did I notice? Oh, the woodwork is unpainted. That's surprising and delightful in a kitchen. I would have expected it to be painted. Fantastic.
Yes, so they would have several different sets of dishes stored in here to be able to serve on.
Oh, this beautiful original cabinetry.
Yes.
This is the butler's pantry.
Yeah.
Not the food pantry.
No, so for servingware and dishes.
I wonder if they would even plate things in here.
Probably.
There's so much counter space.
There's a lot of counter space. These are the stairs that the cook would take. I was mistaken earlier. She didn't actually live here, but she was expected to be here early enough in the morning to cook a warm meal for the family's breakfast and then prepare their lunch. And then she was allowed to go up these stairs, and up at the top of the stairs there's a small room where she was allowed to nap. She had her own space up there, and then she would also prepare the family's dinner, and then she would head home and cook for her family of 4.
Here's one other thing I just noticed that's very cool about this room. This box up here. I don't know exactly how they work, but I believe that's so the people, the residents of the house could call the servants, and if the arrow would go one way, that would indicate which room it is. And there's a little bell at the top of the box too. You may remember seeing something like that in Downton Abbey.
Yes,
right?
Those little bells.
Yeah.
This space is one that the Volksfest Association really took and made their own. Made it feel like somewhere very German.
Yes. Which you couldn't do with the rest of the house with altering the character.
Right, and down here was primarily a working space when the Gardners built it. There was a room, this room was, I believe, where they stored the coal. I don't know if it has a coal chute or if that's been covered up, but there was a room here to store the coal to heat the house, and also there was space for washing and drying clothes. It wasn't it wasn't a very nice space back then.
I was surprised though to see the how wide the stairs and the wooden banister and railing that's more elaborate than I would have expected coming down into a basement. So it tells you something about, this being a Grand Summit Avenue house. They don't have an ordinary basement staircase.
No. And there's yet another fireplace down here.
How do these spaces get used now?
They are used as gathering spaces. So during events, we've done classes, art classes down here, or parties. This is a dance floor here.
Yeah.
So if you scooched the tables out of the way, you could do a nice polka dance. There's a bar over there. So part of the intention for building the house and the people of that time was to have big gatherings, and that was a social status for them, to be able to have these parties and gatherings and have people over and eat on their fancy china plates that they had lots of in the pantry, or have a ballroom space where they could entertain as part of their social circles.
Probably a live band.
Yes.
Yeah, undoubtedly. Yes, an important part of upper class social life, to have a grand house that indicates your social status. Mr. Gardner was a prominent businessman in real estate, investment banking, mortgage loans.
Yes.
Yes.
So it was important to rub elbows and know the right people, and one of the ways that he could do that was by having this grand house where he could entertain people.
On Summit Avenue.
Yes.
Also an important feature.
Yes. It's location.
Yeah.
So this room was originally the bedroom, the main bedroom for the Gardner, Mr. and Mrs. Gardner. Summit Avenue had city water service provided to it in 1884. So this house was built with bathrooms. And one was connected to this master bedroom. And they also all did have closets. This was Mrs. Gardner's sitting room. Another fireplace.
Lovely.
But it was the nursery for the two boys when they were young. Tub is original.
Oh, it sure looks like it.
Oh,
and the original sink too.
Yes.
Nice.
Clawfoot tub.
Oh, that's a beautiful sink.
Isn't it? So this is the
Ballroom. Yes, that's why there's lots of open space for dancing or musicians, which is a thing that the GAI used it for, and probably also that the Gardner family used it for.
I'm surprised that it's not fancier.
It's not especially fancy,
Given the rest of the house.
how fancy the rest of the house is.
But the acoustics are wonderful.
You hear every creak of the floor. It doesn't look very much like what it used to be. The Germans built another bar up here for their parties. But when the original family lived in here, the woman that was the caretaker, the nursemaid for the boys, this was her room.
At the same time, there are definite horizontal, continuous through lines, and so it's not just completely random, but it's not perfectly regular either. So it's a lovely and very common masonry pattern.
What's it called again, Aaron?
Random ashlar, A-S-H-L-A-R.
The best way to find out about our events is to visit our website, which is gaimn.org, or to sign up for our newsletter. And we have events for kids and teens and families, and events throughout the year. We love to utilize our beautiful house and the beautiful outside space that we have in the summer. So doing events out on the lawn, lots of different ways to get involved, and come check out the Germanic-American Institute for yourself.